If you're using a dual planet configuration, it's very important that the planets are completely opposite one another, meaning they're in a 180-degree phase. You should verify this by just looking at the planets across the end cap and make sure that they are in a 180 phase. Okay, so this would not be 180, this would also not be 180. So try to do this as best you can. The next step is to take your ring gear, which is the cover of the Planet 3, which also has the internal gearing, and we need to press fit it onto the hub end cap. You will do this by placing it on the hub end cap. And now the most important part, and my only request to you, is that you do not push on this large surface. This part is actually made out of two parts. We have the raised bevel edge, which are basically the clips that hold via press fit, and they are super glued concentrically onto this surface. So if you try to press here, you will be putting this joint in tension. It's very important that you press on top of this raised bevel surface. Probably the easiest way to do this is to overlap with both your thumbs the hub end cap and this raised bevel surface, and then simply press down like this. Now the front part is pressed on. You will rotate by 180 degrees and then press the rear part on. And then just rotate and continually press around until you feel it completely envelop the hub end cap. Once you have got the ring gear started on the hub end cap, you will need to uniformly press this down. But the most important part is to get the correct installation depth. The correct installation depth of the CenterLock device is the same as for the 6-bolt. It's when this edge of the ring gear overlaps this lower edge of the sun gear. In that case, the gap between the ring gear and the sun gear surfaces is going to be 0.2 millimeters, and the two parts will never be in contact. When you start pushing this down, it's again very important to push only on this central part and view the device from the side. We need to engage the splines of the ring gear with the splines of the planets on both sides. What can happen is that one side will be engaged and the other side will crash one into each other because the planet is not perfectly positioned to mesh with the ring gear teeth. In this case, as you go down, it's important to feel, and if you hear an audible click on one side, like this, okay, now this side is engaged. The other side, if it will not go down gently, you can do just a slight wiggle left and right, but keep this within like 1 degree, okay? Otherwise, this planet is engaged, this one is not, so this one is going to move when you rotate. You need to look at this completely level with the gap between the sun gear and the rotor in order to gauge this depth, okay? So I would always suggest to look just on the one side and not directly in front of the ring gear, because there you will just have an obstruction of black parts. And then just press on one side. And as soon as we see the edges are overlapped, we will just rotate. And then press again. And do this in small increments until you see that the edges are completely overlapped. Once you try to rotate the end cap, the ring gear should not wobble up and down. It should just rotate smoothly. The only sound that you can hear is the sound between the planets and the surface of the sun gear. If you were to press this down further, I'm just going to demonstrate. As we go down too deep, this will be the sound of the ring gear splines meshing with the sun gear base, and also the sun gear splines meshing with the central part of the ring gear. These two parts should never be in contact. If you have done this, you will simply grab the ring gear by the external edges, pull up, and do a light wiggling motion back and forth. Then this edge. This one is still too low. This requires significant pressure, but do not fear to pull this up, because this joint is now in tension and you cannot separate the two parts. And be careful when pulling this up that the planets remain in engagement. And now just reset the proper installation depth. part is slightly up in the air. You need to be really pedantic about this. This is the level of sound that you can expect from the device in your living room or garage conditions. It will be inaudible when you're on the trail. Now that the ring gear is installed to the correct depth, we need to verify that the planets underneath are still in an exactly opposite phase. For this, you will use two of the external magnets that I sent and just simply slide them apart with your fingers. Look for the magnet underneath and be careful of the pole orientation. If this is being rejected, then just simply flip it. Now, if you're a consummate professional like myself, you have managed this on the first attempt. If not, simply slide these off and then grab the ring gear by the external edges and use an upward pulling motion while wiggling back and forth to remove the ring gear. Reset the correct phase and then reinstall.